It's my absolute pleasure to welcome Roger Barnes, who I'm going to name King of Rum, here to Rum Kitchen today. To talk a little bit about the background of rums and to tell you a little bit about the event we've got upcoming. Roger, any bar of good reputation that is stocked with rums seems to know your name. Okay, you're a man who's obviously well thought of in the rum community.
I don't know if that is a good sign. That probably implies way too much time sitting on bar stools drinking too much rum. I don't know if that's any recommendation for anybody to live their lives. King of Rum, I think, is a bit elaborate. I mean, there's many experts out there who have written books and represent rum, which I think the title suits more appropriately. It infers how passionate I am about rums and how much I love rum, and have been, and not just taking to drinking it, but studying it, understanding it, the background, and everything I can learn about rum. There's never enough.
Has that always been the case, or did you just kind of grow up with the sort of rum being the sort of first drink that you'd chosen, or is it something that you come to later in life?
Being raised in the Caribbean and in Jamaica, rum is part of the culture. It's not just a drink. It becomes part of the culture. I mean, you can go back to the days of being a baby, actually, before the age of 1, when you get your first sip of rum. You would have it either put on your dummy to help you sleep, or when you start teething, they'd rub a little bit of overproof rum to help soothe the pain. And the great fun was, as soon as I started to learn how to crawl, I used to go around stealing ice out of my parents' rum drink on the floor and sucking the ice, and people thought, oh, he likes ice. No, he doesn't. It's the rum. It's the rum he likes. So you grow up in a culture of rum, and rum was my chosen drink as an adult. Sort of once you then start drinking and enjoying social drinks and so forth.
In previous Drinks Galore, we did focus a lot on whiskey, and some of the things you're telling me, there about kind of growing up with this sort of spirit is definitely the same. But one of the things that I was learning from you recently about rum that's different from whiskey is it's such a broad category, and it's kind of hard to know, when you say a rum, what does it really mean? Tell me a bit about that.
Well, rum is probably the broadest category of all spirit categories. A lot of spirit categories are fairly well defined. Have very strict rules. However, rum, it's one of the earliest spirits to sort of start in the Western world, in the civilized world, and it has a great history in terms of playing its part with the Navy, slave trade, America and the founding of North America and the building of North America. So the category is extremely wide, and it's one of the things that rum drinkers love about rum, but it's also one of the things that probably can restrict rum in some sense, because there's not a clear definition of what is a rum. There are many people who have put in rules to try and define rum. I think the most obvious one is that it has to be a byproduct of sugarcane and no other substance. So it has to be either sugarcane molasses, sugarcane juice, or sugarcane syrup. So there is really only 3 methods, but fundamentally the byproduct has to be sugarcane. The wide aspect of rum is quite interesting. Unfortunately, the general public's perception of rum has been sort of molded by the major players in the rum world. Bacardi, Havana Club, your Captain Morgan's.
Kind of typical back bar.
The typical back bar pub rums. Yeah. The great thing about it now is that with the whole explosion of the cocktail community and the bar community outside of the pubs, rum has grown in terms of the types of rum they stock, and some of the really fantastic rums that will stand up to any whiskey, cognac, or gin or vodka in the world in terms of what it offers.
And like a whiskey, I'm seeing a lot of rums that like cask aged and different types of casks and things like that. Is that a new thing that's coming in, or is that?
No, rum's always traditionally been cask aged. It's just that it's never been marketed. I mean, we have. You've got distilleries that have got rums that have been aging for many, many years, well over 50 years. I mean, we saw the release of Appleton release a 50-year-old rum to commemorate their anniversary, very expensive bottle, but you've got to have the stock to be able to do that. So they've been cask aging for a very, very long time. It's just really the public haven't been educated into what we consider are the premium and super premium rums, which have been cask aged for a long period of time.
And is it just the aging in the cask that kind of separates a sort of premium rum, or are there other characteristics?
There are other characteristics, how it's blended, where it's blended, how it's created. Aging is an important process, and how well it's aged. But there are other characteristics that make rums good. Just because you get a young rum, it doesn't mean you're not getting a good rum. There are really great young rums. So aging is not just the only thing you should look for. It depends what you want to use the rum for.
Well, on that, I was going to ask, because let's talk about a sort of basic question: white rums and dark rums. What's the core difference, and where would you use them in drinks?
Well, you know, you've missed out one important one, is that we have, the category is probably brought down to white rums, gold rums and dark rums. And then the fourth category is probably spiced flavoured rums. Traditionally, white rums are unaged rums, even though that's beginning to change now. People are aging white rums to get more flavour into them and then taking the colour out. But white rums tend to be used in mixers, so a rum and coke, or it's traditionally been a white rum. A daiquiri, a mojito, that's where you would use the white rum. Gold rums, which is the next step up, which is aged rums, which take the colour from the barrel, will also be used as mixers and in cocktails. But you're now getting to a category where they can be sipped neat. The darker rums, quite often considered known as Navy-style rums, which are your Captain Morgan, your Woods, your Kraken, your Sailor Jerry's, these type of rums, are very much more pungent and equally not ideal for sipping. You've really got to have a serious palate for rum to sip some of the Navy rums, but they're great for mixing in cocktails as well. Give a little bit more punch to some of your cocktails that you're creating. And then the spiced rums has been probably the largest growth market in modern times in the rum category. Many people, I think, I would say predominantly spiced rums are quite often drunk with Coke as well. Just gives you that extra little kick in your rum and Coke.
And if you're drinking a rum, I mean, do you always go for something you're kind of sipping, or do you go for a cocktail straight away, or what's your preference of it?
That's very difficult. Depends on my mood, depends on where I am and the circumstances, depends what I feel like. If I'm in a very relaxed mood, I prefer a sipping rum, so I'd go for something that's aged, that you can relax, sip, maybe neat or with a little bit of ice. If I go out, if I'm in a party mood, I'd have a rum and a mixer, something that you can really sort of enjoy, refreshing, but also, you know, gives you a little bit of buzz which you want to party with. So it really depends on your mood and what you're after. And I love cocktails, and especially when you go to venues where you're going to get great drinks. And you know the bartenders are really good. So you know, fabulous venues where you can come. We're here at one at Rum Kitchen, where you know that somebody like Mario is going to really give you a good drink and can be creative with it as well. So you can talk to him and says, I'd like this twist to my drink or something like that.
And I guess having the kind of quality of rums now, and you know, coming to a bar like this where there's such a range of rums as well, and having a great bartender, you really are talking about amazing tweaks that you can do to a drink that you might know or think you know very well in a kind of standard bar, because of the sort of changes, if you like, and as you said, in terms of
that's very true as well. And I think, again, it's about educating people, but rum plays a major part in the cocktail category. I wouldn't say that any one particular spirit dominates the cocktail category, but the tradition in rum for cocktails is a long, long way back. And when you look at some of the classic cocktails, you know, rum has featured. The only 3 trademark cocktails in the world that I'm aware of are all 3 rum cocktails. So you can see the history of rum and also the versatility. You can go from something very classic like a daiquiri or a Hemingway to something very tiki like a zombie or a painkiller, which are all sort of very contrasting different styles of drinks. And the rum and coke, which, as you know, is probably been the market leader in terms of how rum has been drunk. Primarily because of Bacardi and Havana Club's influence on it's always been either Bacardi and Coke or Cuba Libre, which was a Havana and Coke, a Havana Club and Coke. So, but the variations are so wide, and there's so many fantastic ways to drink rum.
Well, Roger, we've got an amazing event coming up in a few weeks' time. I've got a feeling we're going to hear about the history. We're going to hear about what makes rums different. Is there anything in particular that we're going to hear from you that you want to give us a little hint of just now?
I'm looking forward to the event. I mean, I'm going to give the audience a journey in rum, talk about not just the history and the background of how rum started and came about from the early days right through history, its impact, and the Navy, the British Navy, and how rum was a major part of that. How rum has shaped different eras in sort of drinking and through prohibition and into modern day cocktails. And rum's impact on the economies of some of the world as well. I mean, it's really something to look forward to, and you know, hopefully, you know, the objective is that the audience will leave with a much stronger appreciation of rum, and quite often that comes through knowledge and tasting. And
taste as well, absolutely. That's definitely going to be one of the highlights of the calendar for us. Roger, thanks for joining us today. It's been absolutely brilliant to have you.
Thank you.